everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. Also want to welcome those tuning in on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. Glad you all could be with us as well. If you guys are new to us on the Amazon Live side, welcome. Make sure you guys do hit that follow button. You'll see it either here in this corner or down below. You will also see the books of our next guest. We're excited to welcome back Dr. Teresa A. Smith to our broadcast, or Dr. Taz, as we call her here. She's celebrating her brand new book. You guys can see it here, Transformation, the Bounce Back. We're going to talk to Dr. Taz not only about the writing of the new book, the honesty that she shares, but also the work that all of us have to continue to do in our lives to be our best self. She's had to realize it, and she helps us to do the same thing. We're going to also let you guys know how to stay connected with her. But Taz, welcome back to the broadcast.
Thank you so much, Cyrus, for having me.
Hey, look, the pleasure's definitely always mine. Hey, look, I have my other books right here. Let's see if our audience can see them. We have Transformation there. For those who haven't seen them, go ahead and highlight it in the carousel. So you guys on the Amazon Live side, I'm going to highlight them for you. Believe it or not, she also has another book here, the book that kind of kicked everything off, Stronger. Her very first book. You guys can see it there. We have it highlighted in the carousel for you guys, as well as her cookbook. You guys can see it here. Transform with Taz. I mean, she does everything, as you can see there. And of course, she has her book that's on Kindle there. Have it highlighted for you guys, From Bravery to Victory as well. So, Taz, first of all, congratulations. This is our first conversation on the air since your new book came out. Talk to us about what it's been like for you to see the response to Transformation, the Bounce Back.
Cyrus, it's been very heartwarming. As you know, and as folks are beginning to know now, I was live, I think this past weekend, talking about the fact that I was off social media for 3 months. And it was my own doing. I'm very transparent. I just didn't do right. I didn't do right. And so I'm so happy that people are accepting my honesty, and also hopefully it will inspire them to be honest and be willing to make changes in their lives also.
Yeah. I'm so glad you, and she beat me to the punch, y'all, because I was going to talk to her about this not doing right part. But it's so interesting to me when I was reading Transformation, the Bounce Back, and it's a book that surprised me, Taz. Taz and I had talked about the book in concept, but it wasn't until I got it in my hands that I realized it is her story, but it also is a workbook for us too. We're going to get more into that. But Taz, it was fascinating to me in reading this book and thinking about how when you do videos, the thing you would always say is, take care of you, take care of you, take care of you, and yet you weren't taking care of you. So what was that? What was that like for you to be honest with yourself that the very advice you were giving to us, you weren't taking for yourself?
Cyrus, it's very humbling, and I could cry. Right before we came live, I was on Facebook, and it had memories, and I was just looking back to see what the memories were. And in actuality, a doctor that treated me several times throughout my life died in 2020. I think it's August of 2020, and I didn't know it. And so it was very shocking for me. And he said to me, one of the last times I saw him, that he wished he knew he had to remain active, but he wished he had thought about the flexibility. And that was one of the things that he didn't think of. And so when you asked me the question, I'm very transparent. Sarah said to me some time ago, she said, you're taking care of everybody else, but who's taking care of you? I thought I was taking care of me. I really did. Mm-hmm. But I realized, hindsight's 2020, that I really wasn't. I was so focused on all of the things on my to-do list. Yeah. That Teresa wasn't on the to-do list, but I thought I had put myself on there. And so for me now to be at this space, hello, Melissa, for me to be at this space now, it's like, okay, I can't afford to go down that path again, because I may not be able to bounce back. We only get so many lives, and we're not cats, so I don't get 9 lives. Yeah. I've got to now take control and understand when I do it, it's not about anybody but me. Mm-hmm. And be very clear, it's not about anybody. It's about me. And I got to be willing to just take it and run with it.
Yeah. And I love the fact, hello, Melissa, glad you could join us on the Facebook side there. Here's the thing, Taz. You and I have had these conversations on air as well as just in our personal conversations. I've had this conversation with other people. I am very aware of my mortality. And I don't know if it's because I'm a suicide attempt survivor and realize how fleeting and precious life is and how you have to treat it as something precious. You can't think, I think there are so many messages that are not true, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many narratives that we are told, and quite honestly, we tell ourselves. This whole thing about having it all, I really don't think you can.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you can have it all. I
Mm-hmm.
think there are trade-offs that have to happen for everybody.
Yes.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
this whole thing about work-life balance, I don't think that exists.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a real thing. I think we create these constructs that we then try to live by that, as you talk about in the book, as I've known for myself, that are not real. Talk to us about what that's been like for you to realize that you have to do what works for you. You and I talked about that personally. That,
Mm-hmm.
what, you don't feel like posting, don't post.
Yeah.
You don't feel like being online, don't be online. You know, the world will keep turning. you know,
Yes.
how important has that been for you to realize that you have to make sure you're on the list, Haas?
Well, Cyrus, folks may realize, before I got sick, I really wasn't posting on Saturdays and Sundays. And it just sort of happened because I realized that I needed some time off. My job is very demanding, and they said there are no emergencies in higher ed, and they aren't. But when my faculty reach out to me, I feel that I have to respond to them because I have part-time adjunct faculty.
Mhm.
So they work somewhere else between 9 to 5. And so when they need me, I have to be available to them. But also at the same time, we live in a very meeting driven environment. So I'm in meetings all day. So
Mhm.
when do I actually do my work? I do it later in the evenings. And what happened was I found myself I think I talk about that hamster on that wheel. I was on
Mhm.
the wheel and I couldn't get off. It's like that old commercial, I fall and I could not get off the wheel. And so now that I'm off the wheel, which I'm still a work in progress, because I know how easy it is to just be sucked back on the wheel. And it's like, then you find yourself in the same space again.
Yeah. Such a great point. And this is such an important conversation. And for those who are joining us live, it is Mental Health Awareness Month is one of the things that May has been recognized for. But also that brings to mind the importance of self-care, but also evaluation. Now,
Mhm.
this is interesting that the book is called Transformation, the Bounce Back, because you gave us, your last book was this,
Mhm.
Transformation. So I want to talk about, for you, Taz, when you finish, because you and I've had a lot of in-depth conversations, and I invite our audience to go back and watch them because we've had them here on Amazon Live. We've had some very in-depth conversations about change is challenging, is one of the
Mhm.
things you begin the book with, but also it is never ending. Talk to
Yeah.
us about realizing that for yourself, that you are even today continuing to transform.
You know, you talk about constructs. I write and I'm inspired by many different things, but really I'm inspired by God.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a construct that how do I want to say? I think that we buy into the idea, as you were stating earlier, that we can have it all, but we can't have it all. But we lose the fact that when God sent his son into the world, he was showing us then that it's an evolution,
Mm-hmm.
because he said that he was going to send the savior, but it took all those generations before the savior came. And
Right.
so I think for me now, it's like, okay, you said change is challenging, you thought you were transforming, you thought you were stronger, from brave to victory. All of that is true,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm still in the flesh, and I still have to remember that I'm working on this every day. I have to be fully present in that thought process, because otherwise I go off kilter. And
Yeah.
when I say I go off kilter, I get lost in what's going on around me, and I don't focus on what's most important. And what's
Mm-hmm.
most important is making sure that I'm a solid individual working and functioning well, so that I can do the things that I have committed myself to doing.
Yeah. You say this in the book, and this is probably one of the most powerful, and I'm curious if it was one of the hardest things for you to write, Taz. You say this in the new book, Transformation, the Bounce Back. For those who have the print edition, it's on page number 8. I felt like I was living in a distorted reality, and everything I once thought was true was no longer valid. I caused the hurt I felt. That's a hard bite of truth to swallow. I have been going through the motions without really thinking about what was most important to me, which was my life outside of family, church, work, and other organizations. I had subtle warnings, but ignored them. And there are people who will hear that and will feel like you're speaking to them or reading their mind. What was that like for you to admit? Because the truth was already there, Taz.
Mm-hmm.
But what was it like for you to admit that and then to be able to read it?
Cyrus, I need to go back and read the book. And I'm being very honest. I wrote this book out of pain.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to someone this week, I never cried during all of that struggle. I never did. And I'm very honest. I should stop being so honest. And a day or so ago, I was in my feminine side, is the way I refer to it. I was in my feminine side versus my masculine side. And I was tearful. And I said to them, I never cried the whole time. I kept fighting because I knew I had to fight to survive it. And so to go back and read that and hear you say those words, for me, it brings up the pain. It's the desperation, feeling that you're at the end of your rope and you don't know what to do. Because I could not even think straight. And I know people like, you couldn't think straight. No, I could not. I couldn't even think, everything was just a mess, and so when I read it now and hear you say it, it just shows how far off a person could be from their own reality and not realize it, because I was living in a distorted reality. I thought everything was great, and it was not. And if someone had said it to me, I wouldn't have been able to receive it because I was so focused on what I thought was that I couldn't understand what wasn't.
Yeah. You and I have talked about an example Oprah gave in her masterclass, Taz, where she says, life comes to you sometimes as a whisper.
Mm.
And a lot of times, if you ignore the whisper, then you hear the yelling.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the pebble.
Yes.
Then there's the boulder.
Yes.
It seems like a lot of times it's not until we get to the boulder that we realize that, okay, I'm going to have to change something here. Mm-hmm. What was the boulder for you?
I think the boulder for me this time, Cyrus, was when my body, what comes to mind is saying it betrayed me. And maybe that is the way to say it, because there really was nothing that said I was going to be sick. There was no precipitating event. I stood up and that was it. And I think that's what did it, because my body betrayed me. Before, when I'd been sick, I had an illness. I knew it, but I didn't have an illness, but I did have an illness. It was a mental illness. Because my mental mind was so out of balance with who I was, or the other way around, that it was crying out in pain, my mental, my emotional, but I couldn't hear it. And so, like I said, it betrayed me, but actually, I guess it didn't betray me. It saved me.
Yeah. I was going to say, Taz, did your body betray it, or did you just choose not to listen? Because again, on page 8 of the book, you write this, and I think this is really interesting to continue what I was reading earlier. Add subtle warnings, but ignore them. When we constantly ignore the physical warning, the body readjusts, and the signs that once caught our attention no longer do. For example, if you have high blood pressure, you may occasionally experience a headache, which indicates your blood pressure is elevated. However, when you routinely ignore the headache, the body adjusts, and you might no longer experience a blood pressure-related headache. Doesn't mean it's not there, but again, as you mentioned there, you choose to ignore it, which is why so many people have strokes. So many people fall dead. So we say these things happen suddenly, but a lot of times there were things there that we chose to ignore. Was that something that in the middle of everything else just became easier for you to do because you were doing so much else? You felt like, some people feel like, oh, I don't have time to be sick. I don't have time to deal with this issue. Yeah, this is bothering me, but I don't really have time to deal with that because I have this other stuff to do. When you're looking at the truth meter here, how much of that fell on you?
It was all on me, Cyrus. I'm just honest. I think about Thanksgiving. They said I was just, I thought that, yeah, everybody came to me for Thanksgiving. They say I was off. I
Mm,
thought it was a wonderful Thanksgiving.
hmm.
For me, it was wonderful. I don't, but when I look back at it, that was probably the last big sign. But when I processed it, when they were saying, that I was off, and I'm like, and by that, guys, I mean, I wasn't myself, but I
Yeah.
thought everything was great. So I was in that distorted reality then. And
Mm,
even when it was mentioned to me, I still couldn't see it. But
yeah.
now looking back, it's like, oh yeah, you were off. And it was my body, it was my mind, it was my behavior. Everything was off, but I still didn't recognize it. And so
Mm,
again, like you said, it's that headache. I just didn't realize it because I was in
yeah.
my own world.
Yeah. And we all fall there. And let's be honest. So I'm saying this to Taz because Taz and I,
Yes.
we have that kind of relationship. I
Mhm.
can talk like this to her, but she also wrote it in the book. So I'm really just reading the book. That's what I'm going to blame it on.
We're gonna
It's
blame
in
it
the
on the
book.
book. Okay.
So I'm not actually saying these things to her. I'm just reading her words back to her, which she wrote. But Taz, I commend you for this because this is a conversation that is not had enough. I have it
Mhm.
with my friends all the time. I tell my friends, I don't think I can have it all.
No.
I don't think that. As much as I do, I tell people all the time there's a lot of other things I would want to do. I know I can't possibly do it. So I don't put that pressure on myself and think I can function and take care of myself and everything else. Plus I have family to think about, so we have other things outside. So not only are you able to share your story, talk to us about the work because you give some interesting work here based on some of the things that you've learned in your profession. The SOAR is one of them as well. You also, of course, talk about in the book the importance, of course, of being able to hold yourself accountable and to actually reward yourself, to think about the
Mhm.
things that we do right too, because you do talk about that. How did you decide on the latter part of the book, Taz, how you wanted the reader to become a part of it?
Cyrus, when I started writing the book, I'll be honest, guys. I started writing the book. I was out for 3 months and I started writing it, but I couldn't complete it until I went back to work.
Mm,
And I think the reason was I'm different when I don't work. And most of us are. I
yeah.
was not on a vacation, but I'm different. And once I went back to work, I had to figure out how do I manage the stressors that come with working every day. And so I started thinking about the things that I'd done. I started thinking about things that I could do. And that's how I started to identify the areas in the workbook, from the affirmations, from the expectations. And then I thought about my friend Diane Hunter, who's not with us anymore. And she would say to me, they stuck on stupid. They stuck on stupid. And I understood it when Diane would say it. And I thought, okay, I need to put that in the book because I need people to understand. Sometimes we get so stuck in our thinking that we can't turn the page. And then I thought about our boss, one of our managers that both Diane and I had, Mary Coble. Mary always was happy. She was just always happy. And I used to think I need some of them happy pills that Mary got. But I realized Mary was happy because she said to me once, you have to always have something to look forward to. And she
Mm,
did. She would do something every quarter. And I
mm,
thought, okay, you got to now start adapting that philosophy. And then I thought about Pastor Tandrea Harris, who was Diane's friend that became my friend, who died a year after Diane died, and how she always said to me, don't begrudge small beginnings. And I think that goes to some of our conversations, Cyrus. We think that it has to be grandiose.
yeah.
It doesn't have to be grandiose. Just work in your corner, on your plane, and just make that the best that it can be. And opportunities will come if they're supposed to come, but be grateful for where you are. And then all of that led into the affirmations, and then, with the sword, looking at your strengths and aspirations and opportunities, and, and then the results of it. Again, going back to Pastor Tandra, you don't have to have 50 million followers
Yeah.
to be a success. You can have 50 followers and still be a success. And so I wanted people to begin to look at things from a logical, practical sense so that they don't continue to put so much pressure on themselves like I was putting on myself.
Mm. You one of the things that is so interesting in the book that you all did, and I want to say for those who are just tuning in, you all are watching Cyrus Webb Presents. I'm speaking with Dr. Teresa A. Smith. Dr. Taz is back in the building. We're talking with her about her amazing journey. She's the author of books like Stronger. You guys can see it there. That was her very first book. She also has an ebook that's on Amazon. I'm going to highlight it now for you guys, From Bravery to Victory. Also, she's the author of this book, Transformation. And now her newest book that's out is called Transformation, The Bounce Back. As you can tell, very revealing, very, very Taz. The book is very Taz. She's very open and honest. But Taz, you do something in this book that I think is very interesting. And I like it a lot. And I was going to talk to you about it, message you and talk to you. But I thought we had these conversations coming up. A contract with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
When we think about contracts and we think about things that we may have contracts for, it's so interesting how I feel like, and I'm curious as to your thoughts about this. We put a lot more weight on contracts we make with cell phone companies,
yes,
with mortgages, all this other stuff, than we do with ourselves. Talk to us about how you came up with the idea for the contract with yourself.
Well, it's so easy to say I'm going to do better. When I was thinking about, I was sick during New Year's. And so, we do the New Year's resolution. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to, exercise, whatever. And it's like, a couple of days go by, a month, and then you fall off the path or whatever. And so I knew for me at this time, I had to figure out how to remain in that space. And as you said, we do contracts for cell phones. We make sure we honor that. Well, how can I honor the contract, or honor the agreement that I've made with myself? I'm doing the positive self-talk. I'm doing the affirmations. How do I take that to the next level to hold me accountable? And so the idea of the contract came to me. As an educator, we make contracts with students all the time. And I'm like, well, why not make a contract with yourself? Because who needs a contract more than you do? Nobody. Because if I don't get into the habit of taking care of myself now, I don't have another 40 years because I didn't. And so I wanted to look at, what are those core principles? What am I going to do for self-care? What are the things that I'm putting on my bucket list? Because as Mary Copeland said, you got to have something to look forward to. And so that's how I came up with it. And also I was thinking about, who do I need to be in part of my village? So that spiritual person, the financial person, the person that's working with me professionally, you have to have somebody who's with you. And it may be one person, but it may need to be different people, because people have different focuses. And so that's how I came up with it, because it's like, I got to have something more than just a book, than just a workbook. What's going to really hold me accountable? And the contract that I make with myself is what's going to do that.
Love that. I'm going to ask you a question, because that's what I do around here. I ask questions. Okay. I don't have the answers. I just ask questions.
Okay.
Can you say today, in May 2023, that your actions are showing that you love yourself now?
Yes. I can tell you that. I've already thought about it, Cyrus. Once we're done today, I'm shutting the computer down and I'm walking away. I am in another group, and one of the things that I'm doing there is I'm writing down 3 things for 30 days that I want. One of those things is that I want to leave. After 8 hours a day on my job, I want to shut it down. And I've started doing that because I have to. So I'm not there, but I'm much better than what I used to be.
Yeah.
But the contract and writing the thing down every day, it stays in my forefront of my mind. So it's more likely that I'm going to do it. And after 21 days, as I found out with my, when I was out of work, after 21 days, research says it anyway, when you do something for 21 days, it becomes a habit. And so I got in that habit, when I was out. So now it's like, okay, you're back, and you've been back for almost 15 weeks. So it's over. You got to take care of you now. I took off 2 days. I was off yesterday. That's the reason I was out there making that funny noise at the plants. And I'm off today. Normally I would not do that. I would not. I would just keep working and working and working. So I'm better than what I was, but I'm still a work in progress. I'll be the first to admit it.
Yeah. Well, as you say in transformation, change is challenging.
Yes, it is.
It is, but it's necessary.
Yes, it is.
I think that's the thing. Taz, I really appreciate this conversation, and I should let our audience know. Taz and I did not. She didn't know what I was going to be asking her about. I never tell anyone anyway.
Never
I don't
tell
even
her.
know what I'm going to be asking. I know what I have in my mind, but I never know how the conversation is going to go. But I appreciate you being open and honest. What do you want this book to do for others? We talked about you. What do you want Transformation to Bounce Back to do for others, Taz?
I wanted, first of all, to let people know they are not alone. And they don't have to be ashamed that they struggle. We all struggle with something, but we don't have to let that struggle just pull us down like quicksand. We can bounce back. We can reach out. And I hope that the book, my story, and the workbook component will inspire other people to grab hold. And this you do in the, you do it in the comfort of your home, wherever. Nobody has to know.
Yeah.
But hopefully it will help them to see that they're not alone and that they can get out of it, whatever that it is for them. So I hope it will be a lifeline for other people, because I'm using it as a lifeline, because I want to live, as my gentleman said, and it's a wonderful life. I want to live.
Yeah.
And I got to stop doing what I'm doing if I want to live.
Love that. Taz, thank you so much. Melissa says, great conversation. Thank you all for joining us on the Amazon Live side. For those tuning in on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, thank you all so much for being with us, LinkedIn. We appreciate you guys. The book, again, is Transformation, The Bounce Back. That's just one of several books Taz has here. You can get this book in print or the Kindle edition there. Also, remember, she has her cookbook as well, Transform with Taz. You all can see it there. I have it highlighted in the carousel for you guys on the Amazon side. Next in the carousel is her book, Stronger. You guys can see it there. And then, of course, her book, Transformation. You all can see it. I have it highlighted for you guys. There it is. It also is in print and Kindle. And then also From Bravery to Victory is in Kindle as well. Taz, how can our audience stay connected with you?
The best thing to do is just to follow me on Instagram, Dr. Teresa Smith. And on my Instagram bio profile, you'll see my bio, my link tree, and you got everything. It'll get you to all of my books, my YouTube channel, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. That's the best way to follow me.
All right. Taz, congratulations to you again. Thank you so much for a great conversation. And looking forward to speaking with you next time.
Thank you, Cyrus, so much.
Always. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Cyrus Webb Presents. Really good conversation with Taz. And I appreciate her being honest. Not an easy conversation to have, right? It's not easy to admit that you can't do it all, that you can't be everywhere all the time. It's just not possible if you're going to do as Taz says in the book, and also said in this conversation, if you're going to take care of you. Now it's great to know that she's able to say those words, but also live those words. And that's the thing for all of us, myself included, we have to be willing to do. Hope you guys will get your copy of Transformation, The Bounce Back. I'll be adding my review to Amazon. If you guys have read the book already, invite you guys to do the same thing. Make sure you guys on the Amazon side, if you have not done so already, you hit that follow button either here in this corner or down below. Also, of course, all the books from Taz that we mentioned are down below as well. So make sure you guys get your copies. Until next time, I'm Cyrus Webb saying thank you so much for being with us. You all make it a great one. We'll talk soon.